Did you have this rear end in once at all?
No.
Close by?
No.
So, do them 4 lanes back there hook up to anything, or are they just swinging in the breeze?
They're hooked up to something, but...
They hook up to this one. Now what do you do, huh? Now what do you do? Gonna put this under there and see where things need to be. Ain't that what you need done? Here we go again. It's stuck. Josephine. So we gotta put it in and take it out again. Put it in, take it out. Put it in, take it out. No way. That should be your
Which one?
4 lanes.
These ones.
Bolt onto them.
What's on there? Need to get welded on. What are you doing here, Chief?
Gonna put this up in that car and get it centered.
Those are supposed to go parallel. Same vertical plane as the pinion, or as the rear end. They're straight, you understand what I mean?
Okay.
If you look at these, come here. You know what, too, Tyler? Those aren't straight. Because if you put those straight, then you don't have no pinion angle.
I'm just saying they're straight with the axle, not with the ground.
You mean straight with the hub?
With the front face of the differential housing. This table's just not level enough to measure from.
Bet you that big thick table back there would be solid and level.
Unfortunately, when they build the rear end, they do not install all the tracking arm brackets and the mounting arm brackets for the rear spring. So what we ended up having to do was get it jigged onto a table so that we can weld all these things in.
Bring it back, Richard. Bring it back in the back.
What we're now doing is setting up the jig on the table with the Curry rear end because it's already been jigged, it's already been welded. So we're going to use that as a template to set up our jigging for the Winters rear end that we're going to be welding together to put into the Cohen's car.
That's what creates your pinion angle, right there.
So that'll create your pinion angle,
Yeah,
but it still will bind the spring. You know what I mean? What's going to end up happening, your spring's going to lie here and your axle will lie here. If you don't, you know what I mean? If you made these parallel with your pinion angle here, you'd have that on a bind like that, and the spring won't work.
I think they weld this on at an angle to this.
These aren't welded on an angle at all. These are actually straight. And actually, the angle is where this was
Welded to
jigged.
this.
Yeah. The problem with jigging these things up is first off, you got 2 factors. To make sure that the bracketry is welded on straight, because if it's not welded on straight, the car will go down the road sideways. The second issue is you need to make sure that you, to pitch the rear end with a correct pinion angle. And what the pinion angle is where the drive shaft will ride onto the rear end itself, and it's got to be at a correct angle so that you don't get vibration or you don't get looping in the drive shaft itself. It's 1 degree. Here's what I'm saying to you is if you can take this and pitch this 2 inch, put one in here and just pitch this 2 inches, or the degrees that you need from here to here, and then just keep these perpendicular or parallel with the table, you should have it. What my concern is where this is supposed to go in proximity to on the axle. Does it get welded right up to the bung?
Knocked all the way over there
Does
by
it get-
my measurements earlier.
Yeah, that's the same. I had.
Off of what? Off of that?
Yeah.
Yeah, the measurements from that and that center right there, I come from the center of that, them out at the ends are,
See, the problem is if you tack it all in and everything, and put that spring on it, it's gonna break the tacks.
I'm making a jig to put these brackets on that other rear end.
Do that, and then if there's any angle left, make a piece for here and a piece for there.
It worked out well then?
Right on the money.
Okay, you got everything tacked in?
Don't have anything tacked in. Want to show it to you.
It's beautiful. It's the way it should have been done from the start. Why didn't you do it from the start? Take that now and let's fit it into the car, since you've got it clamped the way it needs to be. Here's our problem right here. Bring it back there a second. This is why we didn't go with the glove door here, because I may just make another piece of metal to go like this, because this is going to have to be widened.
For the
Because
screen.
the screen's 7 inches wide. Problem is when you mount those screens flat on here, what ends up happening, all the glare and everything else, if you give some depth to it, the glare doesn't seem to affect it as much.
Right.
The reason I went with a bigger dash like this is for more area for instrument panels and in whatchamacallits in the whole 9 yards.
Right.
So let's see if we can get that in the car now. So what we're gonna have to do is
Bring the top out.
bring those tabs down on both sides. You're gonna have to straighten those tabs a little bit. See how the tab is out here? We're gonna have to bring it down so where it's almost back behind here.
Behind this little lip here.
Exactly.
Okay.
Then what we're gonna do is we're gonna have to make this here to the contour of that. And see, I wanna try to get it to where it's like this, so that there's no angles to the dash itself. So let's get it tacked together, cut these ears off of here.
Okay.
Once you cut these ears off, and try to cut them back here,
With this.
Tyler, be like a quarter of an inch behind there. So if we have to move them in, we'll just keep cutting back to where it actually has to go. But that way we can at least fit it into the opening there.
Okay.
Okay, so weld that together, cut those off, and then see me.
All right. This is going to be getting cut across here, and we're going to follow this contour with it. We're going to crank it and stretch it until it fits. And I think we're going to make a brace for underneath that.
Yeah, you're gonna have to go across with a bracketry. First of all, for this. Second of all, you're gonna need something to hang all that air and stuff off.
Yeah, this lip's gonna get cut straight across. It'll get cut straight across from there to here, it'll get cut straight. Then what's gonna end up happening is we'll make this out of metal, but we have to form the top of this dash to meet this curvature. So what we're gonna do is jig it up, put it on the table, and put where this goes, from this end to this end, and tap down what's left. So what we have to do is get where the column's gonna actually fit to make sure that it actually is low enough for him, so we know that we don't have to put a column drop on here. You understand where I'm going with that?
Yeah, if you can put it flat, it's gonna be
If I can go right into that hole and attach it right to it, just with an actual a C clamp, and clamp the column to that, then I'm perfect. Here's what you're gonna do. You're gonna need to get is your height first. And what I'm thinking, the way I'm viewing this, see this notch here that you have here and the notch there?
Yep.
Those should be the points that should stop right to,
To this right here.
what's that? To the, what's that?
This notch on the side went up here.
I'm wondering, but it looks like we might just be too high for that. Don't forget, we still have to bend. You're gonna weld, you're gonna put a lip on there anyways. Take the cut-off saw right there and just zing it down there. Is that pretty much where it's supposed to go?
Yeah.
Because what we can do is this, Tyler. Measure down where we want it to be. Drill this hole, measure down on that side, drill that hole, and mount it on there. Now we can screw it in. And what we could end up doing is tack welding it onto this plate in here. Then we know exactly where this has to be cut. The problem being is I think we're going to probably end up having to drop it down even a little bit more. Down a little bit more. You might have to come down to here, and the reason why is if you go too high on this, you're going to lose this contour in the dash here. I would rather make a piece that comes up to it, you know what I mean, and weld it on the top so it almost comes up like this, than try to take and deviate from this piece here. That's why I said if we can have the clear stir attach over here and come down here, and the post go out here, you still have room for your pedal here. So your clear steer would actually run diagonally from here to maybe down to here. He's going to go ahead and weld those tabs back on, and then we'll attach it here and there.
So you made this piece here?
I made it out of wood already, the template. We still have to do the steer clear, we still have to put the steering column in it, and we still have to fit the navigation system in it. And we've got today and tomorrow to do it. Safety first. We're actually bolting this on here so that we can shape the top of the dashboard to fit where it is. You know, when you're trying to fit a dashboard that's designed for a 40 Ford versus now trying to put it into a 32 Ford, the contours of the window or the windshield frame are totally different. There you go. That's why those guys do the work and I have the ideas.
Right now I'm just trying to stretch the top of the dash out so we can get a little more material out of it and get the curvature that we need. Then we're going to screw it down to that piece of wood, warm it up a little bit, screw the ends down, see if it stays.
Figure where your curvatures are. You don't want to stretch as much up here now. You want to do a lot of stretching down here.
Getting closer. Gotta keep bringing that side down. Bring this side down a little bit more.
Oh, I think I got it!
Well, it doesn't hit every time, does it?
Only when it's on the curves. So you can see right now where it's on, where the flat side's near the frame,
Yeah.
it doesn't hit. But as soon as it touches, just that
It's not much either.
No, it's not. It's just the tiniest little bit. I figure if I can grind that and get about 60 thousandths clearance, I'll be good. That's the whole problem been with this car. It's the sins of others.
What?
Sins of others. People get in here and change stuff around. I mean, when this car was a show car, they should have just left it alone.
But what you need to do is take measurements and all that stuff. So you cut yourself new shaft?
No, this is shaft we had laying around that I just, made to work. This is actually 3 little pieces welded together. The only problem is, with this being down far enough so it clears the header, because that comes right up underneath of it, it just touches the frame rail here. See the witness mark?
Then notch it.
That's why I wanted to make sure you were okay with that before I did it. Yeah, it only took me, 2 hours to get the okay to fix it, but, I get paid by the hour. Actually, I don't get paid by the hour anymore. I went to a single U-joint and I got to notch the frame and take out the other steering knuckle that somebody else put in that was in the wrong location. So not only is it simpler and more effective, but it's also a lot cheaper. And this is the hard part of these do-it-yourself cars that don't come with any instructions. But we'll figure it out.
The 33 Willys has been somewhat of a challenge. Obviously, not only did the previous owner of the vehicle do some items to the car, Mike Foose did some items to the car, or some construction to the car, and the previous rod shop that was working on it did some construction to the car. So you've got 3 or 4 different philosophies going into it. Now what we have to do is identify what everybody's done and see if it meets our specifications or our quality of work, and determine if we even want to use it at this point in time. So yeah, it's kind of like working ass backwards. And again, I hate to do that because of the fact that we'd like to start a car from the frame up. We've had that same experience on the 39 for the Lund car, where we were trying to correct other people's mistakes. It's not necessarily mistakes on the 33 as much as it's just philosophy or philosophical. So we have looked at making different changes to it than what has actually been done to the car. The problem with the steering on the Willys is twofold. Number one, originally when the car was designed by Ida, the Ida family, who did these bodies for years, the steering actually had to come out on top of the frame itself. And that in itself is a challenge because you've got to put knuckles into it. It was further complicated by Mike lowering the mounting points of the engine itself. So now not only is the steering having to run up on top of the frame rail, but because of the lowering of the engine, we're having difficulty where it's actually coming off the frame into the actual rack and pinion. So, it's been complicated for 2 factors now. So we have given him many options, either to eliminate running on top of the frame rail and actually running the steering on top of the engine, which is not too uncommon in today's environment, especially with these smaller cars. Or in fact, going with some kind of chain-driven system like the Steer Clear, which we've used in other vehicles here, and dropping the steering out the bottom of the car so that it runs below the engine itself into the rack itself. So it's really up to the customer at this point in time, and we can make it work where it's at right now, or else we can make the alterations, and we're waiting for his decision to let us know what he wants done. These cars do not come with instructions, and yes, you're absolutely right. Time and time again I've said that. And the question is have we ever thought about writing a book or a set of instructions for each of it? It's funny because a lot of these aftermarket parts do come with installation instructions. However, because of the different applications that you put them in, it's not as simple as just writing a simple outline of how to install it. Because there are different philosophical differences between builder to builder, number one. Number two is more importantly, from car to car, because of the proximity of where you have to fit these items in, it does make a difference. So to end up writing a general set of instructions or a how-to book on doing this, you'd basically have to do it individually per car that you end up doing. On the 32 for Cohen's 32, we are in the process of welding have welded the dashboard back together. As we indicated, this is a 1944 dash going in a 1932 car. So we had to section the dash. We've cut out the locations for the navigation system. Now it's just a matter of fitting and finishing it. And you know, there was a lot of welding and a lot of grinding that Tyler did. He's probably got 2 weeks in on that dash, and it's a costly event, but it's going to be something that's a one-off on this car. This is something that nobody else has out there. We do have a friend of ours that installed one on a Model A, but nobody's installed one on the 32. So I like the looks and the appearance of it, number one, but the functionality of it, number two, because it gives you, versus the original 32 dash, it gives you much more location to install instrument panels, navigation systems, knobs and switches, you know, column drops, because of the thinness of this dash height-wise compared to a 32. We were able to get the steering column itself up off the floor so that he had much more leg room in there. So these things take time. And again, you know, when you're doing a custom one-off, no instructions, no directions, and it's all visually, you've got to plan it all out in your head before you actually start doing it, because if you mess it up, to start over again, you know, the dashboard alone is $500 before all the work goes into it. So, you know, we got to make sure it's done and done right. Everything seems to be coming together on the Cohen car. The Foose car is coming along too. There's a lot of other projects that we're working on trying to finish up before year's end. So, as I said last week, continue to stay tuned because it's going to get exciting. There's no doubt about it, and not only exciting, but challenging. When you're trying to finish these projects in the amount of time that we've allocated for them, plus keeping them under budget for our customer, it tends to be exciting footage. This week's episode is being dedicated to a family member who passed away this week. My uncle, John Ulanowitz, died unexpectedly this week. And John was not only a lover of cars, but a very dedicated father and husband to a family of 7 boys who loved him dearly. And unfortunately, his loss is going to be felt throughout the family. But John was a big lover of cars, and we always wanted a vehicle like what we produce out of Blades Rod Shop, and John will be missed.
Okay, well, if you heard that, then you would understand that people were very possessive about their tools. Okay? You'd experience that if you were older.
I like to go on vacation. There's no vacation in street rod building.
There is, though, Jim.
I can arrange for a permanent vacation.
Either way, I'll collect. I still carry my union card. 526.